This recording is for a landscape of Rome for ages 10 and 11 for the perspective drawing. And the final drawing will show both 2-point and 1-point perspective. So when you begin the warm up with the students, we're going to go over both of these types of perspective and practice them before they do the final drawing. To begin, you're going to take your ruler and draw a horizon line across the paper. If your students have been in CC before, then this will be review for them, but still try and use those vocab words like horizon line and vanishing point as much as you can. So now I'm going to add my vanishing point off to the side just to make it a little easier. So I'll add that there. And to do 1-point perspective, we are just going to be doing a shape. So I'm going to do a square here at the bottom. And right now, when I do my shape, it's flat, it's two-dimensional. And we're going to make this two-dimensional form become a three-dimensional form using the 1-point perspective. So I'll take my ruler and draw a line from the corner to the vanishing point, from the second corner, and then also from the third corner. So you're going to be doing this in front of your class. And by pulling all of those corners back to the vanishing point, it makes this flat square become a three-dimensional cube. And again, they've probably done something similar before, so this is review, and you can move on after they've done that and go to 2-point perspective. This might be a new concept for them, so go nice and slow on this part. For 2-point perspective, you need 2 points on the horizon line. So I already have my first point from my 1-point perspective, and I've added a second point here, so I have my 2-point perspective. Now I'm going to be doing a cube in 2-point perspective, but it's going to look very different than the 1-point. Rather than starting with a square and turn it into a cube, I am going to start with a single line that comes down. And now we're going to take the top of this line and connect it to the vanishing point on the left. We're going to do the same thing with the bottom of the line and connect it to the vanishing point on the left. So right now it's just like a triangle disappearing back to that vanishing point. We're going to do the same thing on the other side and connect it to the second point. So top to the point and then bottom to the point. So now it almost looks like these two walls are coming out towards us off the paper. We're going to make it into a cube, and in order to do that, we need to add a straight line over here on this side and then do the same thing on this side. So now we have an edge to the cube. We can see that there's, this side here and this side here. We're still missing the bottom. So the way to do this is to do opposite. So if I go from this side and this point, I'm going to pull it to the opposite vanishing point. It's going to vanish on the left. If I start on the left, it's going to vanish to the right. So I'm going to pull the line over to that vanishing point. So again, you're going to have to go really slow on this, slower than I just went, and probably walk around and help the students, especially if they've never done 2-point before. It can be very confusing with those intersecting lines. The project that we're going to do for the final drawing is going to be of the Colosseum of Rome, and then just a 1-point perspective road leading up to that. And I know a lot of the students love to play around and add funny things to the drawings, so just encourage them to follow along step by step with you, because after they've drawn the road and the Colosseum, then they can add gladiators, they can add lions, they can add whatever they want to add to it and have fun. But they need to follow your instructions and stay nice and slow with drawing it in order to get to that final step. So once they've done this practice drawing of the 1-point and 2-point perspective, you can give them a new clean piece of paper to start the final drawing with. For the final drawing, you're going to start with your horizon line just slightly lower than center. So use the ruler and do your straight line across there. We're going to be starting with the 2-point perspective. So you're going to have the students start with 2 points on the horizon line. Let's do one all the way over to the left and one that is, I'd say, about 3/4 over the page on the right. Once your students have those 2 points in the right places, they are going to use their ruler, and in the middle between those 2 points, they're going to do a nice tall line that intersects with the horizon line. So just like when we did the 2-point perspective in the warm-up, we start with a center line, and then we are going to use our ruler to connect the top of that line to the vanishing point on the side, and the bottom point to that side as well. And then we're going to do the opposite on the other side. So again, my shape is being pulled back into space, making it seem three-dimensional by having these lines connect to those vanishing points. Now that you have the basic shape in 2-point perspective, you're going to be adding the sides of the shape, the sides of the Colosseum. So I'm going to use my ruler and do a straight line on the left-hand side, and that's going to be the wall. And I'll do the same thing on this side over here and pull my line straight down using my ruler, and that's the wall on that side. Now we see that the Colosseum is round like a disc, but I have a cube shape going on here. So the way that we're going to change this cube into more of a disc shape is to use a curved line. So from our oils vocabulary, we know that curved lines are always part of drawing. To do that, I'm going to start at this upper point of this line, and I'm going to end at the point of this line. And I'm simply going to take my cube and make it more of a curved shape like that. Now I'll do the same thing on the bottom. I'm going to start at this point. I'm going to end at this point. I actually want to exaggerate my curve a little bit more to make it really feel like my Colosseum is really coming out at me. So you can see that my line went past that line. It should not have. It's a little bit harder on my tablet to stay steady, but your students will have their line simply follow that cube but curve around rather than having that corner in the front. So once they have their 2-point perspective Colosseum, then we are going to do a 1-point perspective road. They will use their ruler to have the vanishing point be back here at the line that, or excuse me, the vanishing point that we've already used. And they're simply going to do 2 straight lines that come away from that vanishing point and come down to the bottom of the paper. In order to do a curvy road that looks like it's going back into space, back into that 1-point vanishing point, we are going to do curved lines, but the curved lines will be closer together near the vanishing point and get further apart as they come towards us. So I'll show you what we do. We just kind of curve a little bit on this side. Now as we do our second line, it's going to touch the sides of the line I've done. So for example, it comes and hits the side here. Now it's getting wider apart and comes back and hits the side of the line again. So now it looks like this winding road is getting smaller as it gets towards that horizon line. They've used 2-point perspective and 1-point perspective in the same drawing. And now they can begin to erase all of those lines that they've done, all the straight lines around the Colosseum and the straight lines around the road. So they're just left with the 2 objects. And then once they've done that, you can go ahead and begin to add things like the arches in the Colosseum. The arches, just like the lines, are going back in perspective. So they're going to get smaller the closer to the vanishing point on the side. They're big in the middle, and they begin to get smaller as they approach the vanishing point. There's 3 levels of them, so I'm going to go ahead and do all those 3, always getting smaller towards the vanishing point. They can draw people in the windows in a minute. They can draw a battle scene somewhere, wherever they want to do. As long as we get some of these details correct in perspective, then they can move on to other things of their own choosing in just a minute. And so once they have the windows in perspective, now let's add whatever you want to add. So for example, if I wanted to do some small trees and stuff in the background, I could do that. They're small because they're close to the vanishing point. They're far away. And I could draw some guy with a shield and his sword fighting this guy over here. And if I wanted to make it look more like a travel poster, then I could do some lettering up in top and make it look like a travel poster to Rome. Do some clouds in the sky and just let the kids add whatever type of decorative accents they want to add.